What's up? It's Noah Taborda here with Jeremy Schnell on Group E of the World Cup 2014 predictions. And I know it's been about 2 weeks since I did it. I think it's been 2 weeks or it hasn't been a week. I'm actually not sure. It feels like it's been a while since the draw. But I am here with Jeremy Schnell. Jeremy, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Noah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so, of course, we are going to start off with Group E after we covered Group D last. So we are going to start. This group consists of Switzerland, Ecuador, France, and Honduras. A couple of more well-known teams and a couple of teams that, could surprise some people. So we'll start off with you, Jeremy. What are your initial thoughts about this group?
Well, it's not the most overwhelming group in the World Cup right now, but of course you got Honduras, an up-and-coming team, and of course France, a well-known team. But if you look at their roster, they don't have too many older guys, veteran guys on their team. But it looks like Thierry Henry may be playing. We'll have to see if he makes the team because he's been playing in the MLS for the past 3 years. So maybe his form is not up to par.
Yeah. I mean, Thierry Henry, obviously one of the greats of all time, and he got them into the last World Cup on a controversial handball goal. But France, even though they don't have as many veterans, they look like one of the leading teams in this group. And you look at the other two teams, Ecuador coming off a great campaign, getting into their first World Cup in a very long time. They're not a team that normally makes it, as well as Switzerland, who made it to the last World Cup, but were knocked out quickly by Spain, but this time finishing number one in their group in Europe, though that may have been due to a weak group. But, Jeremy, coming into this, who do you think is the favorite? Who stands out to you as the team to beat in this group?
Well, obviously it's France right now, but don't be surprised if you see Ecuador and Honduras start to take over in this group, because these two teams are very hungry and haven't been really known to be those teams that could push the other teams, the higher up teams in the World Cup. So we'll have to see if they try to make a name for themselves in this 2014 World Cup.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. You look at France, and you see a team that, coming off 2006 World Cup final, they were in it, and they were inches away, minutes away from beating Italy. They came into the last World Cup, and they just really disappointed. They just weren't the team that many people expected to see. They expected a team that could possibly make a run for that championship. I mean, the same happened with Italy as well, but this France team, lots of young players, and of course led by Franck Ribéry, who is just a phenomenal player, one of the 3 finalists for the Ballon d'Or. A couple of other players, as well as Paul Pogba of Juventus, who recently said some controversial statements saying that he's worth more than Gareth Bale. He definitely had some choice words there. Lots of talented players. Samir Nasri of Manchester City, Patrice Evra of Manchester United. But as you said, Jeremy, they don't have many old players on this team, not many veterans. And for that reason, I think they're going to make it through the group stage, but I don't know if they can go much further. Now, when I look at Ecuador and Honduras, I see 2 teams on the rise, and then just looking at Switzerland, I like the team. I'm going to be rooting for them, but really, how realistic is it for a team that really, I don't think has ever made it past the first round of the World Cup? Now, they made it to the quarterfinals once, but besides that, nothing really out of the ordinary. They beat Iceland, Slovenia, Norway, Albania, and Cyprus for the group. That doesn't instill confidence in me. You look at Honduras, and sure, they don't have the best track record. They did struggle in last year's World Cup, but this is a team that does have talent that can beat good teams. You saw it in qualifying this year. They were able to hold with some of the bigger teams, and it was tough. It was a tough one, but they finished over Mexico. They finished 3 points behind Costa Rica, and they were able to defeat Costa Rica, actually, in one of their games. So they look good going into this. And now, Jeremy, before we talk a little bit more about the certain players that could really make an impact, you have France going first. So who do you think is going to come in second in this group and advance to the next round?
I think Ecuador is really on the rise right now. So I'm going to go with Ecuador. You got to look out for Christian Benitez, who scored 4 goals in qualifying and and looks like he's one of the players to watch in this tournament.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going with Ecuador second, and unfortunately, two of the more likable teams in Honduras and Switzerland are out again. Interestingly enough, they both played in the same group last World Cup as well, with Spain and Chile, and once again, a European and a South American team going over them. And as you said, Christian Benitez for Ecuador, an excellent player. You have a couple of other talented players on that team as well, including Antonio Valencia, the captain of the team. He plays for Manchester United, so he's got a lot of experience. And this team is definitely going to put up a fight, and they might even challenge France for that, even though France right now sits a little bit above them. But in the past couple of months, this team has definitely been on the rise. And so, Jeremy, when you look at this group, now that we know who's going to go through, what players are really going to be difference makers in this group, and possibly also from Switzerland and Honduras, send them through the next round?
Obviously, Frank Ribéry for France, because he's obviously one of the best players in the world right now, right? Because he was third in that award drawing that Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo were in, and he's one of those players that can just lead his team, and he's definitely one to watch in this group.
Yeah, and I just want to look at Switzerland because, out of all of the teams, I feel like this is the team that's actually getting the least attention despite being in the pot of teams, being one of the top 8 teams in the world. And Switzerland, last World Cup, they shocked Spain in the first game, which you would think turns head, but it really didn't for many people. But this team, they are a good team. They can put up a fight. So when you talk about players on this team, and you want to look at players that are, have some experience overseas as well, you go no further than Xherdan Shaqiri of Bayern Munich, who played in the Club World Cup today and almost scored a goal, went off the post, but he is very talented. Stefan Lichtsteiner of Juventus, John Juru of Hamburg, Fulham's Philip Senderos. So he's playing with he played with Clint Dempsey, and he'll be playing with him as well right now. Also another player from Fulham, Pashtim Kasami. So lots of Fulham love. Bayern Leverkusen's Aaron Derdiak. So they do have players that are talent, so they can definitely put up a fight. But at this point, it looks like Ecuador and Switzerland. So before we finish up this Group E prediction, Jeremy, last words on this group, and what do you expect to see out of this group? Do you think it's going to be an entertaining group? Do you think it'll be one of the less entertaining groups? What are your final thoughts?
I think it's more underwhelming groups in the World Cup this year, and it was one of those groups where I was looking before the U.S. got drawn to the group that they got drawn into. I was looking at Group B and saying, "Wow, Switzerland. I see Honduras just got picked." Or maybe I wanted the U.S. to get into this group because they could have done damage in this group, but of course.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look at this. If you go into this group, you say, well, sure, there are some teams that are good. All the teams are good, really. But unlike USA's group, there is no team that is elite level in this group. And it would have been great for them. And for me, this group really ranks in the lower half of the groups because despite having a very equal playing field, the equal playing field doesn't make up for the fact that there is no team really that you say, wow, I'm going to watch this group. And really, I would think that the attendance at these games would be significantly lower because of that fact, which doesn't really help. And once again, this adds to my theory that, the groups were drawn in a way that there are 3 or 4 really good groups. And then you get those other groups, which we have another one coming up later in the show, actually next group with Argentina, but that are just not that good. So, yeah, that is our Group E prediction. Not the most exciting group, but it should be a good group nonetheless, and we will be right back in another segment for our World Cup Group F predictions.